Well, welcome everyone to today's episode of TMI Advice You Didn't Want. We had some really good questions this week on our TikTok, and it was really talking about how do we raise our vibration? So, one of the things that I know I said on one of the TikToks was the Schumann resonance is going crazy. And anybody that doesn't know what the Schumann resonance is, it's Earth's energy. It's the graph that measures Earth's energy. Okay. So it's been going crazy. And for me personally, I have been feeling some really powerful, amazing, personally, it's been really amazing effects from the change in the energy field. And so I'm talking on TikTok about continuing to raise my vibration. And the question was posed of, yeah, but how do I raise my vibration? And so I kind of want to demystify this because I feel like some of the words that we use in the spiritual quote unquote camp can be really confusing because it's like, oh, like even when I was in Christianity, it was like we would use some really weird terms. And it's like, let's demystify it a little bit and show you how easy, oh, quote unquote, easy it can be to raise your vibration. So, in case we haven't met, my name is Karen.
My name is Ashley. And I think that's really important too because when we talk about raising our vibration, it's almost like this pedestal that we put it on. And it doesn't have to be such a big deal. And it almost feels like this life or death situation sometimes where it's like, oh, if I don't do this right now because the Schumann resonance is going crazy, I'm not going to manifest the life that I want. And it puts you into a scarcity place, which will lower your vibration.
Lowers your vibration. Yes. So, let's break it down a little bit. So, let's talk about how come it will lower your vibration if you get into a scarcity thing. So, your vibration, in my opinion, and I think it's more than just an opinion, but whatever, your vibration is pretty much calculated by how you're thinking and how you're feeling, right? Really, the ultimate litmus test of your vibration is how you're feeling on a moment to moment basis. Okay. So if you are feeling those elevated emotions of love, joy, bliss, insert whatever elevated emotion you want there. And when I say the word elevated emotion, I hope that paints a picture like you feel really good when you're elevated, right? You're feeling really great, as opposed to a limited emotion, which is anger, frustration, overwhelm. You insert the word there, right? There's a pretty big gap there, right? So when we're feeling those elevated emotions, our personal vibration is raised. How come? Because source is love. Okay? Source, God, the universe, I don't care what you call it. It's love. And when we raise our vibrations by increasing our emotions, we're drawing ourselves closer to source. And that is how we raise our vibration. Now, I could go into all the quantum mechanics of it, but we don't need to go that deep today. But that is as simple as it gets. When you want to raise your vibration, if you want to take advantage of what's happening right now with the Earth's energy, it's really about noticing the thoughts that are lowering, like anxiety, fear, overwhelm, frustration, whatever you want to put in there. Okay. A lot of us spend a lot of time in these things, right? Like it's actually scientifically proven that on a daily basis, we spend 70% of our time in these limited emotions, 70% of the time. Okay. So, how do we change that? We notice when we start to feel that way and we ask ourselves, I literally will say this out loud to myself. Do I want to keep feeling like this? Not really. I don't like this. So, I will sometimes have a pep talk with myself and go, hey, Karen, how you feeling? Like, what's going on? Like, why are we focusing on the things that don't feel good to us when I can change that in an instant by focusing on the things that do feel good to me? And
Mm.
so changing how I feel either about a situation or just changing how I feel right now by thinking about things that I'm grateful for, that's how I'm raising that vibration.
Yeah, and I think that for me, like a lot of things are more like outside of me, like definitely like what you said, like talking about like changing your feeling and all that kind of stuff. But I have a lot of life fun stuff going on. So It sometimes I have to change my circumstance. And so there's a lot of like neuroscience and data promoting this, where if you're stuck in a stuck state with your emotions, like get up and change your scenery. And so going for a walk, going into nature, those are all really easy things. Like when you change what's around you, it naturally will also change what you're thinking and feeling. And so I know for myself, like getting into nature, getting disconnected from like technology is one of my favorite things ever. This weekend was a little bit of a harder weekend, and so my partner scooped me up and took me off about a half an hour away from our house, and there's no cell service. It was on a lake. We frolicked with loons and baby mooses on the water. It was
Mm.
pretty fucking cool. And that, like, I literally felt blissful because I changed my scenery. I changed my circumstance, and I could feel that vibration increase. And then once you feel that, then you can start to creating that for yourself. But it's really hard to create something that you haven't felt. So you have to figure out how can you feel that feeling and then recreate it. So,
In
uh,
the same environment where you felt the limited emotion. Let's talk about that for a second, because like that's where true change happens. Because it's like, yes, I can change my environment, but I'm going to come back to that environment that made me feel those limited emotions. So I have to figure out how to change the feeling. And you said this too, change the feeling. So I know what it feels like to feel blissful. Now I take that feeling back with me into the same environment. And I ask myself, how do I create that elevated emotion in this environment?
yeah. And that's where a lot of people are like living for the weekend or like living for their next vacation and all that kind of stuff because they feel good in that changed environment, whether that is their house instead of their workplace or Mexico instead of Canada, you know? So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, but we've talked about this before too, where you can change hating your job, you can change hating your colleagues, all that kind of stuff. For me, I hate going to court, but when I'm actually there, I have changed my feelings around it. And so when I'm actually there, there's no negativity, there's very present, this is where I'm at right now, this is what I gotta get done. It's when I allow myself at home or before I go to get into that like fuck this shit kind of
Mm-hmm.
mentality. But I've been able to master when I'm actually there, which has allowed me to be able to think clearly and get the job done and all that kind of stuff. So it's really figuring out like how to create um that higher vibration. And so like you can do the step ladder of I feel at a 2 right now, what can get me to a 3? You know, and work your way up that way and just incrementally work yourself up one step at a time. One of my favorite things is saying like, what can I do right now to make myself feel a little bit better? And then for me, it's often a podcast, because that is that feeling when you get around that higher level of intellect, integrity, any of those kind of higher level things, it brings you up. Um, when you get around lower level, like people that are complaining about their life, watching like drama-filled TV show, you're naturally going to start feeling crappier too. So your situations will affect you if you allow them to, for sure, but also they teach you how to act and how to feel.
Yeah. I want to say too, like, I want to be such a master of my environment and my emotions in those environments that I actually create the environment, right?
Mhm.
Like, think about that for a second. How does your energy change the entire room? Like, I mean, anytime you know somebody that like they walk in the room and everything lights up, or someone walks in the room and you immediately can feel the low energy, like, think about how if you raise your energy and you feel good no matter what, you're relaxed and awake, you're in a present moment awareness state.
Mhm.
Think about how you are now actually the creator, the manifester of that environment,
Mhm.
regardless of what's going on. That is very powerful. And I truly believe like people can feel that. whether they are conscious to it or not, people can feel that about you. And people tend to be drawn to that if they're like, oh, wait a minute, I want to raise my vibrations too. Whereas people that don't will be repelled from you. And so you start to create this ecosystem all by changing how you're thinking, how you're feeling in any given environment, no matter what. So, for example, court, as you said, that for a lot of people, not even just you, like a lot of people would find that quite stressful, right? There's a lot that goes into being in a courtroom in just that environment in general. I know for myself, the hospital is one of the same kind of professional, quote unquote, feelings that it's like you do have to, in a sense, put on a certain level of, what's the word? Like you have to be proficient at what you're doing. People can smell it from a mile away, right? So that could create a lot of anxiety for somebody. But if you can, I'm going to go really deep for myself right now, okay? But if you can master that anxiety of that overwhelm, everything changes around you, okay? So how I'm going to go deep is I actually realized this is probably what been within the last, I actually knew that I did this, but I actually have been changing it so intensely. Within the last 6 months, I had the desire to change any anxiety that I had around the hospital. I don't care what's going on. I want to have zero anxiety. Somebody can be dying in front of me and I want zero anxiety around it. Okay. So that was my desire. What I realized in going down this path, and I knew that I did this, but I never tried to change it until recently. In nursing school, I would have so much anxiety. This is nursing school, okay? This is when I'm in my teens, right? I would have so much anxiety before clinicals because I had so much fear that I was going to fuck something up, right? And for some people, like I looked at it as this is keeping me on my toes. This is keeping me this energy is actually keeping me in a state where I am vigilant, right? What it was actually doing is it was making me anxious and overwhelmed by my job. Okay? Like that is not vigilance. That is just fear at the end of the day. And when I started to go, I want to shift this. I have no problem with being vigilant with what I do because I always do my best at whatever I do, right? I put my heart and soul into things, right? But I don't want to feel anxious or overwhelmed when I step foot into the hospital. And I used to, I haven't felt this way in a long time. I used to, if I had to work the next day, I used to not be able to sleep the night before. I would be a kind of a stress ball the day before I had to work, right? Like I would just be a friggin' mess. And I realized that it was because of this overvigilance that I had created that I thought was actually making me better at what I did. But in actuality, it just made me hate my job.
Mm-hmm.
That, when I started really turning that around, is when I went, oh my God, like these people, like I know that their current level of awareness has them thinking that they need this service that I'm providing for them. I don't believe that they necessarily need it, but I can still come in and help them at their current level of awareness for what they think they need. And that, when I started changing that, I can't tell you how many more people have told me, oh my God, you are like, you're so good at what you do. I feel so like you're present with me. I appreciate, I've had more people tell me how much they appreciate my energy, probably within the past year than ever in my entire career in the hospital. And that's because I literally took this bowling ball of an emotion of this anxiety, thinking that this is just making me more vigilant at what I was doing. And I decided to change it into something that was actually more elevated. And actually, instead of the fear, now it can be, I'm actually helping people at their current level of awareness. And that actually feels good instead of, oh my God, I hope I don't fuck up.
Well, it's kind of like the whole idea of like using a label as like a crutch or whatever, like an excuse. And so when you were saying that story, I was thinking about, so just today I was telling a kid at work at a school that he has to sit still. He's like, I have ADHD. I'm like, that's great. Me too. You still need to sit still.
Hmm.
And whether I do or not, I have no idea. I checked the boxes off when I was diagnosing when my son went through diagnosis, which I don't think he has it either, but I'm like saying that for like the dramatic effect to this child is like that's cool, but that doesn't excuse you.
Right.
Or I'll have family friends say to their kids, like, because our kids sometimes are weird with like switching, or when they're at their other house, they'll be like, oh, well, they have two homes, so it's a little different for them, and all that kind of stuff, as a way to like understand something. And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, that doesn't work that way. It's not an excuse, you know? And so it's kind of like what you were saying with your anxiety. It was like a justification of
Right.
it. And those kind of things are also like that lower energy of I have different expectations for myself, and you're putting yourself into this box.
Yeah.
And you're limiting yourself. And it's like it's not this is how I am. It's a okay, now I have more understanding of myself, so I have more resources. So it's actually an advantage of like, okay, now I have the skills and the tools to fix this and go above this. And I really like, to me this is a really big thing because a lot of people talk about this is who I am and this is
Right.
and that is one of the most dangerous traps in the world. Like there's no such thing of
Mm-mm.
this is just who I am. So
Mm-mm. Yeah, I mean, our brains, there's so much research on neuroplasticity these days, right? Our brains do not have to stay fixed if we want to create change, right? We can choose to cut off the thoughts that are actually keeping us in a certain way, right? We can choose. And it becomes really powerful when we actually realize that we can choose because we no longer are the victim to our environment. We're no longer the victim to what's going on around us. We can now choose how we're thinking and, more importantly, how we're feeling around certain situations too. So when we change how we're feeling, I don't know how to say this any differently other than when we change our energy, everything changes. I can't tell you how many bodily changes I have had within the past, I don't know, 3, 4 months. That's like, I literally, like, I used to not be able to eat gluten. I ate a cookie today and didn't have any problems. Like, hello, like, my body is changing. And it's because I'm looking at that anxiety and instead of making the excuse for it, instead of sitting with it and going, oh, yeah, but like it's because of my job, I don't have to blame my job anymore. I can actually look at that thing and go, actually, I don't want to feel like that ever about anything. Because I would take this energy and I would even put this on social media. Okay. Like take this energy of, oh my God, I have to get this done faster. I have to show up a certain way. And that creates anxiety in and of itself. Right. And so I'm like, I don't want to show up like that ever for anything. And I'm not going to lie to you. I will still sometimes find myself falling into that old trap because it was comfortable and my body is still in some level used to it. And the other thing that can be really enticing is when other people around you are doing that as well. And so it becomes quote unquote normal to do that. So that's why we get pulled back into those old patterns, those old habits. But it's so empowering when we can realize that we get to choose how we're thinking and feeling about any given situation, and that we do have that neuroplasticity that says, oh no, actually, if I want to starve an emotion that has been going on for years, I can starve that emotion until it's fucking dead. And then I can change my gut health to the point where I'm like, oh my God, like this is TMI, but you're welcome. It's about to happen. On days that I would work, I used to not be able to take a shit. I can now. That's how your body changes, though. When you change how you're thinking and feeling, your body can actually do the things that it needs to when it's doing the rest and repair. And that starts to emanate into all aspects of your life. I wish I'd learned this sooner, but it's one of those things like I needed to go through this journey in order to fully break it down for myself. And then the beautiful piece is that I can now see how I've created this manifestation because I literally step by step did it. And I'm like, oh, if I can do that with that, I can do that with anything. And that's how you realize that you are the creator, you are the manifester, and that the more you raise your vibrations, the more things you are actually in control, quote unquote, of those things, because your vibration is what's pulling the things that you desire to you.
Yeah. I have a cute little story about my daughter that kind of fits into the whole like how you think about something and how you feel about something. It changes your perspective. So 2 nights ago, we like to go for walks after supper, and she was like, "Oh no, my legs are tired and I'm sore and I'm exhausted and I just want to go to bed. I don't want to go for a walk," and was complaining on the walk. She's like, "My legs are jello, blah 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 blah," kind of thing. Then yesterday she joined cross country running, and I've never seen her run properly in my life. So I'm like, okay, you do you, girl. And so she went and did it, and she like crushed it. There was like over 100 people. She came in third in her group and all the things. Like she did very well. And so my partner was with her, and he's like building her up and like going on like how fucking awesome you were, and I'm so impressed, I'm so proud of you, and like all that kind of stuff. And so she's on like cloud nine, right? And so where we usually go for walks is like a similar to a cross country run area. So last night after supper, she's like, "I really want to do the walk tonight." And it was a later night. She's like, "We're going to go for our walk tonight, right? And I really want to do this." Completely different than the night before. And our son was like, "Why do you want to go for a walk after you just ran 1.5 kilometers for us Canadians?"
Mhm.
Um, she's like, "I don't know, it just felt really good. I want to keep doing it." And so the feeling changed, and it's in part because she did well, the release of endorphins. She was praised by her coach and her dad, like, so there's all that stuff, but her vibration raised through all of that. So then when it came to going for that walk, it now was an exciting thing, but also along the lines of like the more you get in that habit pattern of doing the good things, the more you want to. And the more you get into the habit of doing the not so great things, the more you want to keep into that lazy. It's our, like you said, neuroplasticity, like it will go either way. Whatever
Mhm.
it's going to want more of. So if you're being really lazy, it's going to want more lazy. If you're being really active, it's going to want more active. And that's where people will often thrive off of negative attention because that's what they're getting and that's what they keep on giving themselves. So it's really about figuring out like what is going to raise that bar for me
Yeah.
and then doing more of it.
And the game changes when you realize that you don't need anything in your outer environment in order to keep that feeling going. That's
Mhm.
when the game changes, when you realize that you created it, it came from you and not from something in your 3D reality. Because yeah, we could have something surprise us out of the blue and make us super happy, right?
Mhm.
But when it really matters is when we can be in a situation that in the past might have made us feel like shit,
Yeah.
but we can actually muster up those feelings of love, gratitude, bliss in the same environment. That's when your whole life changes. I don't know how to say that any different. Like literally, you change your energy, you change your life.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you change that vibration, you change how you're looking at things, you change how you're thinking and how you're feeling. That's when everything changes. And I wish like I feel like I'm speaking to my past self because past self got this, but I really get this because I have done it. And so
Mhm.
I'm like, if I've done it once, which I've done it more than once, but if I've done it once, I can do it again and again and again. And that was the realization that I had this week, actually. I did it, I've done it before. I can always just keep like literally, I can always just keep my energy up, regardless of the situation,
Yeah.
regardless of what's going on. And when you have that realization, You realize that you are the creator of everything and everything is just going to come to you.
Yeah.
That's when power happens. And that's when we step into who we are as the creator. So the question is, what would it take you to realize that you are the creator? What does it take for you to understand that you can master your emotions and become the person that already has the thing?
Mhm.
Like, what's it going to take when you realize that it's not as hard as we make it? We
Mhm.
turn it into something that's this mystical, magical thing. It's really not. Like, it's literally just how the universe works. When
Yeah.
we realize that what we're feeling is actually what's drawing the thing back to us, when we realize we can change that, that's when the game is on. And that's when I'm like, how do I feel good all the time? I
Mhm.
don't care what's going on. There could be a tornado, a fucking tornado outside. And I would be like, oh my God, isn't it so beautiful? Like, I don't know how to say that any better, but like I've had mystical experiences where I come, like I'm in my body, but I'm so fucking blissed out of my brain that everything is so beautiful. You could have the worst enemy in front of me and I'd be like, oh my God, your hair is so beautiful. Like, I can't explain that other than you just literally love everything. The worst food in the world, you could put it in your mouth and you'd be like, oh my God, have I ever eaten this before? That's when you know, like, okay, that's the feeling I always want to have. That's where I want to stay all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's really powerful, and it really it's just like moving that up one step at a time and learning how to do that so that you're not staying in that stuck state for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the easiest way to talk about it. The
Mm-hmm.
easiest way to raise your vibration is just thinking about it one step at a time.
Yep. Because that's how I got where I am. It was literally like, that's how you get where you are at too. Like it was one step at a time. It wasn't eating the whole elephant. It was literally just going, how do I get from here where I'm not loving what I'm doing to this blissful, I love this no matter what's going on around me. And it is a consistent thing. It has to be a consistent thing. The more you do it, the more you realize, oh, I can do this with anything. And the more you're consistent with it, the more you're creating those neural pathways in your brain too. Without doing it day in, day out, like, I mean, think about if you've ever had like a new job or whatever. Say you work that job like once a month, you're not going to get proficient at that job like you would if you were to work every single day.
Yeah.
There's a difference, right? So if you are showing up once a week versus showing up the 5 days a week for that particular job, you're going to get proficient a whole lot faster. It's the same thing with this. The more consistent you are of putting in the thing that you want, eventually it just snowballs to the point where you're like, I can't even stop it if I wanted to. Why would I even want to? Because I feel so good.
But that's the thing about the one step at a time too, because sometimes when you look at the big picture of like, oh, this is how I want to feel or this is what I want, it can be very overwhelming.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
And that can also stop you in your tracks. And so it's like, what's one thing I can do right now to just move it up? What's one thing I can do right now to get it done? Like whatever it is in that regard, just move it ever so slightly. And then once you're consistent with it, you'll be in a better place and you'll be able to start doing the bigger jumps.
Yeah.
And that's where the power is, like you said.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think this is a really good place to kind of call it. So thanks guys for hanging out with us. This was a really fun one. I had some good feels during this one, but if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast host, go ahead, give us a 5-star. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments as well. And if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead, give us a like, give us a subscribe. And once again, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. So with that, we're going to call TMI Advice You Didn't Want a wrap for today. See everyone next time. Thanks so much for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue hanging out with us, and don't forget to subscribe.